What are the chances for Macedonia to get the first intergovernmental conference with EU this December, according to you?
Your guess is as good as mine. I think the factors that will weigh into that decision, whether Bulgaria continues to stick by its threat to veto North Macedonia, the start of that conference, is the disposition of other EU member states on that threat, and hopefully, particularly other EPP members will see this as really unhelpful in finally moving the discussion to concrete issues of North Macedonia's reforms that need to be undertaken to ultimately join the European Union. So your guess is as good as mine, but that seems to me to be the factor that may very well be decisive.
Should these threats from Bulgaria be accepted as a real blockage for Macedonia, or just a bluffing for political points before the elections in Bulgaria?
Well, I mean, it could constitute a real blockage if they stick to it, whatever the motivation for doing it. I don't think anybody could discount the fact that the current government in Bulgaria is in trouble with the protests on corruption ongoing. And that has caused some friction within the European Union and a lot of criticism for the EPP political family for being relatively silent on that. But I don't whether the Bulgarian position moves is really the most operative question, not the motive. And that seems to me to be that's up in the air. We've got another 2.5 weeks to decide whether they'll pull the trigger or not.
How do you think that Macedonian government or Macedonian diplomacy should position itself on this dispute with Bulgaria?
I mean, on issues of history, language, identity, there are a lot of other commentators who could get into the weeds about that with you. I think North Macedonia's government needs to be keep its eye on the ball in terms of what it needs to do to meet EU standards of membership. The reforms that were not undertaken in the last term of government that people are going to need to see results on. I think that if I were trying to put my best foot forward to the other countries besides Bulgaria that are going to be deciding on this, I think those factors are the best chance that North Macedonia will have other countries weighing in its favor to get this intergovernmental conference and these talks finally started.
Do you think that language and identity should be negotiated in the 21st century?
Whether it should or shouldn't, I think the fact is that in the interstate disputes that North Macedonia has been in, they remain factors, and you could see that these were in Prespa, and this is something that I think Bulgaria felt like it could go back to the well with now for whatever its motives. My own personal opinion is that this is a fight nobody needs, but it's not my fight. So I don't think it has a hell of a lot of resonance within the rest of the European Union, and I think to the extent that the North Macedonian government focuses on that and goes to the level of fixating on that in its argumentation to start these talks, the less traction it will have within the European Union in its favor. So I don't think it's helpful. I'm really disappointed to see this, but I think that's the way I would play my cards if I were in their shoes.
The negotiation framework is currently being discussed in Brussels. At the first COREPER meeting, Bulgaria said no. There will be also an EU General Affairs Council on November 10th. Do you think that the Bulgarian memorandum will be accepted by the member states?
I don't know. I don't know. I think it's the Bulgarian position. Not having spoken to any member state representatives from the other EU members, my suspicion is that the attitude will be, oh God, not another one of these arcane disputes. I don't think it's going to help Bulgaria. I think it might be counterproductive. But the European People's Party has stuck by its members, unfortunately, when they've gotten into domestic trouble, and I think that may very well. Certainly that seems to be the calculus that the government Sofia is taking. So my gut tells me that the disposition of other EU member states will not necessarily be favorable, but I don't know whether they'd expend any political capital to push back. That's really unclear.
At the same time, the Berlin process is being held in Sofia, where Zaev and Borisov will meet. How much can Germany help to resolve this dispute and start negotiations by the end of the year?
I think the German position, as throughout the Balkans and within the EU firmament, the German position is not decisive alone, but it's very important in terms of developing a critical mass for a common position. So I think the disposition of Chancellor Merkel is pretty important in all of this. I mean, Germany was very much for starting the talks when Macron and the Dutch put on the brakes. So I think that will be very important. If she weighs in, though, she is weighing in against an EPP member state, member party, I should say, government that is not. That there hasn't been a lot of pressure on other substantive issues. So I'm wondering, that's the decision that needs to be made. Is the overall direction of European Union Balkan policy versus keeping it in the family, and so I don't know which way that'll break. But Germany is essential if there's going to be forward movement, I would think.
At the last visit of Merkel in Macedonia, that was during the referendum, she said that if we do that and if we sign the Prespa agreement, we will start EU negotiations. So
she wasn't alone in making that linkage. I mean, I think the President Macron said the same thing too. Certainly the German position has been the most consistent within the European Union about that, despite some internal difficulties that came up more than a year ago. Yes, that would be something. If there's a consistency and in fealty to that statement, then policy would break in terms of trying to convince Bulgaria to step back. I don't know whether that will happen, obviously, but those are the mechanics that would need to come into play.